After forecasting or after building a balance sheet from an income statement, we usually try to balance the balance sheet. And what we usually do is that we take the assets and then we subtract it, and we subtract liabilities and equity. The expectation is that we would have zero as our balance. And this is one of the evidence that we have been able to properly balance the balance sheet, right, given the income statement and other factors that we have applied. However, when we perform these forecasts, we are not likely to have our balance sheets balance, right? So let me put this as gray. We're not likely to have our balance sheets balance. And this inability of the balance sheets to balance is what we call discretionary funding needs, or DFN. Discretionary funding needs. And I'm going to put that in bold so we can be able to follow that. Now let's see how it does apply. It's going to be assets, total assets minus total liabilities and equity. Whoa, this is a bit up. Total asset minus liabilities and equity. I think I might have to reduce this. Let me see why this is. Oh, wow, this is a negative value, significant. Okay, so let me put this down by reducing the decimal points to 2. And then let me reformat the cell to 15, because this is where we have always kept it 15. Right, so I've reformatted the cell. Now, discretionary funding need is going to be what? Assets minus liabilities and equity. So what this means is our balance sheet did not balance, right? And this lack of balance, when we subtract liabilities and equities from total assets, is what we call the discretionary funding needs. Now, if we find this being negative, right, then what we have is excess funding available. So between the years 2003 to 2005, we can be said to have what? Excess funding available. And if this turns out to be positive, then that means we need additional funding, right? So that's basically the rule when we use discretionary funding needs. It's negative, it means that we have less assets, right? If it's negative, we have excess funding available. So we have less assets and we have what? More funding options, meaning our liabilities and equity are robust, even higher than the assets we have. And then if it is positive, it means we need additional funding, meaning that our assets, of course, our projected assets is greater than the projected liability and equity to cover up those assets. And that means we need what? Additional funding. So this is just the explanation of that. And we're going to take these even further in coming videos, especially when we are done with the computation of our financial indicators and cash flow. Thank you. And then I'll see you in the final video on the forecasting. I mean the initial forecasting. This will be the final video, which will be creating the financial indicators and the cash flow statement, or the projected cash flow statement. Bye for now.